Welcome to Love 2.0, an insightful conversation about God, love, and sexuality. Our mission is to educate, equip, and inspire the love that you deeply desire and deserve. Our goal is to show men and women the intersection of God, love, and sexuality so you can experience life on a whole new level. That's Love 2.0. I'm your host, Michael Oden. Now let's dive in. So look, guys, today is a really special opportunity that we have here in front of us. We have a special invited guest, Dr. Corey, who we're going to get him to introduce himself here in just a second. But today starts a series, a 6-part series, in fact, where we're going to be talking about just various conversation and ways that you as a couple can keep yourselves out of divorce court. Right. As I shared in my story, my wife and I were literally at the brink of divorce court. And at that point in time, and in the midst of our darkness, Dr. Corey was actually one of the individuals that we sought out, sat down with, and had sessions with together as well as individually. And he really helped us to identify ways that we could take our love and our relationship to the next level. So we've invited him in to share some of his tips, expertise, and insight with you guys so that you can have an impact on your marriage today and for the long term. So with that being said, Dr. Corey, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Gotcha. Great. Well, look, we appreciate your time. And before we kind of get into our first part of our series, tell us just a little bit about yourself, how long you've been practicing, your specialty, and just the areas in which you really find yourself able to serve.
Yeah, my profession, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and certified Christian sex therapist. I've been in practice for about 13 years now. Most of that time has been working with individuals and couples as it relates to marriage and sexuality. Over the last several years, I've started to specialize, particularly in working with men. Well, part of what I realized in working with couples over those years is that a lot of the men were good men, but they were just underserved, underdeveloped in many ways. So start helping them to better understand themselves and learn how to live with greater freedom, power, and love throughout their life and relationships. So still work with couples, still deal with sexuality, but now there's a subspecialty of helping men to grow into better men as well.
Mm. You said something key that a lot of people will probably catch: a certified Christian sex therapist.
Correct.
Expand on that a little bit. What does certified Christian sex therapist mean
So
for those folks
there's
out there with that question?
so there's formal training, and so there's the education component to it, and then sitting under supervision for several hours from other trained Christian sex therapists, and so all coming from a Christian worldview. And so the American Board of Christian Sex Therapists is my certifying body. So they have an Institute of Sexual Wholeness, the training arm of that, and then ABCST, the American Board of Christian Sex Therapists, the certifying board of that. And so, yeah, there's a group of us, not a large group, but there's a group of us around the country specializing in a Christian approach to sex therapy, where there's many secular approaches to sex therapy, but we wanted a unique Christian approach where we're honoring our Christian values and beliefs as it relates to sexuality.
Okay. All right. Well, look, we're gonna pluck your mind around that whole concept here as we kind of go through these conversations. So, as you and I kind of talked offline, we put this 6-part series together just to touch on really the major topics or points that a lot of couples have challenges with in regards to their marriage: finances, sex, dealing with just day in, day out responsibilities with children, etc. In our first part 1, which we're going through here today, let's dive into how fighting over money can potentially lead to divorce, right? Because statistics show that 50% of couples end up in divorce roughly for what reason, Dr. Corey?
Many different reasons, but yes, money is one of the top lists. Yeah.
Absolutely. So with that being said, one of my first questions that I have for you today is, just based on your experience, why do so many couples find it difficult to really have an in-depth, transparent conversation about their finances?
In part because money is not, when we talk about money, very rarely is a conversation just about money. There's often, so if you think about it as the issues, and so there's the financial issues that we're dealing with. And so where do we budget? What do we do with this? What do we do with that? And so that's part of the conversation. But then there's a deeper part of the conversation of what does money mean to me? And so now we're getting into family history. And so, and personal history, personal preferences. Is money status for me? Is money security for me? Is money enjoyment? Is money control? What does money mean to me? And so very rarely is a conversation we're having about money just about money. It's often those deeper issues that are getting played out that we're not aware of. And so we can fight about what do we do with the budget and how much we spend here and how much we spend there, but that's only part of the equation, a surface problem, if you will, and not necessarily the deeper issue. And so until we get to some of those deeper issues, often we keep having money problems and often polarizing around those money conversations.
That's insightful. You mentioned about what does money mean to me and control. Do you find that many couples really even understand that their history about money, like you mentioned, how they grew up and what money meant to them, et cetera, in the household? Do you find that many couples even identify that their history about money is impacting their marriage or relationship today?
Most don't. Most just take it for granted. So that's part of culture is this is just the way we do things. And so whatever home you grew up in, how money was handled, that's just how it was done. You didn't think about it. It was just the water you swam in. And so then when you get married, you just assume that, again, this is the way we do things. Why are you not doing things the way that we're supposed to do things? And so you're both are bringing in your unique cultures into that conversation and wondering why can't you get it? Why can't you see it the way that I see it? And so a large part of my work is bringing awareness to that you're coming from this. One culture is not right or wrong. It is just different. And so what perspective are you bringing to this conversation and how can we highlight that and then help you to move forward? But you're right. Most people are not aware of their narratives, their internal narratives that they bring to money. And so they keep fighting of, you need to see it my way. Why can't you see it my way? Because obviously my way is the right way because this is the way things should be done.
I like that. You said, how come we can't do it this way? And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was probably what people actually say is, why can't we do it my way?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so with that being said, how can couples even begin to identify if one party has a controlling mindset or nature around money? Like, what are some maybe terms, actions, attitudes, and energy that may help people identify that, you're really controlling around money?
What comes up when you ask that question is just their honesty and transparency when it comes to money. And so when you are secret, when you are keeping things from each other, when you don't know. And so Dave Ramsey talks about different money personalities. And so some are the nerds and some are the free spirits. And so the nerds are those who like the ones and zeros. And so they can get in the weeds and they can figure out all the ones and zeros of finances. Where the free spirits are like, as long as we have money to do whatever, then I don't care for the spreadsheets. I don't care for all of that. I just want the money to do whatever I need to do. And so with that, often one spouse takes the lead in, again, the ones and zero, the budget, because that's just, they excel at that more. They may not love it, but they excel at that more. And so take the lead there, which is fine. But the issue comes when that person who is managing the budget keeps that secret from the other spouse. And so they're not involved in making those decisions. It's like, yes, I excel at that, but I'm keeping this from you in a way that you're not involved in the decision-making process. So the couple that comes to mind, she was use Dave Ramsey's term, the financial nerd. And so she definitely had her spreadsheets and the like. And he was more the free spirit, which was fine, but he felt like she was controlling in the sense that here's your allowance. Now you can do this, you can do that. And it felt like she was controlling all the money because he had no say in it. And so part of our work together was that you can still be the money manager because you just manage money better, but somehow you need to have like a board meeting together so that you're on the same page as far as here's how we're handling our money. Yes, you're managing the ones and zeros, but we're on the same page as far as the overall direction of our money, how we're using our funds.
Gotcha. Kind of like a board of directors.
Yes.
Yeah. Where I like what you shared, where one person might be the zeros and ones and the balance sheet maker and the budget protector, et cetera. But if you can then take that information and come together to make critical decisions on behalf of each other.
Yeah.
Right. And then on behalf of the children.
Right.
and just behalf on the family in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah. And so to use that board of directors language, they both sit on the board of directors as far as the overall direction of the funds. But one may take the lead as manager, VP, however you want to name that, as far as the execution of the money, the execution of the budget.
I like that. I like that. I think one piece or one takeaway for couples today can be, if you don't have a board of directors set up for your family, then you definitely would need to make that installation as a part of a program, for lack of a better term, to help you and your family better manage money, as well as to keep the arguments and the disagreements to a minimum.
Yeah.
You mentioned Dave Ramsey in our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like Dave Ramsey is probably somebody that you plugged into to some degree and have found some insight, right?
Yeah.
And not to
Very
plug,
helpful.
okay. Not to
And
plug
so
Dave Ramsey, but do you have any others that you can kind of share, or is there any one or two particular things that kind of come up from you from Dave Ramsey that you might want to kind of help couples
And so
identify?
part of what I like about Dave Ramsey is that he has his 7 steps. And so he breaks it down. All right. So here's
Right.
baby step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so it helps to give you orientation, helps to give you a map of how to use your money. Then the other thing I like about him is that he does come from a Christian worldview. And so while all his talks are not necessarily explicit Christian book, chapter, verse sort of deal, once you dive into it, those are Christian principles that he's trying to advocate for. And so then it's aligned with how do we use our money in service of God's kingdom. So that's what I like about him. But certainly there's other resources out there as far as helping you to budget. There's many different budget apps and the like that you can, I'm sure, do a quick Google search or Apple search to find, let's just get our budget down. And so even on that level, that's a great place to start, of just what money is coming in and what money is going out. Can we be clear on that? So it's not just, well, yeah, there's money and we're figuring it out. All right, can we know our numbers? And so, yeah, that would be the encouragement, is just know your numbers so that you can figure out how to best, from a Christian worldview, how to best use our financial resources for God's kingdom.
Agreed. So let me ask you this question. You've experienced working with couples who were, kind of trotting on that route to divorce because of all of these disagreements and lack of transparency within financing. What's one or two red flags that you could maybe identify for couples out there to say, hey, if you find yourself kind of having this type of energy, et cetera, around money, you might be, unfortunately, going down that pathway to potentially end up in separation or divorce? Can you think of one or two things that kind of come to mind that says, hey, be on alert if you see this?
Yeah, what comes to mind is, like, each month, fine to talk about budget. And so it's not that you have regular conversations is the problem, but if we're regular having intense conversations that feels like we're at gridlock, then it's time to shift gears. It's time to get some help to sort that through. So again, whether that's on the financial level or the relational psychology level, if there's recurring intense battles, for lack of a better phrase, around money, where you're just polarized, you're at gridlock, then it's time to seek some help. When it feels like, we talked about control earlier, when it feels like you're being controlled by money and you're not partnering together in that, then again, that can become a red flag, in the sense that we're no longer partners. And so if we can't do that with money, how much does that ripple out into the other areas of our relationship, where money is just an example of that, where, again, you can take the lead on that, that's fine, but are we still doing so as partners? And so, yeah, if we're not able to partner in money, then that becomes a red flag.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this. Have you seen where couples are having fights, literal, physical engagements negatively about money? Have you experienced that? People?
Thankfully, not
Okay.
often. I won't rule that out that has happened, but
maybe hasn't been shared with you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, I mean, things have got intense as far as like punching walls and yelling and all that stuff. But thankfully, I've not got none that I can immediately think of as far as where they're actually laying hands on each other over money.
Gotcha.
But money is sensitive. And so you start messing with people's money, they have all sorts of reactions. And so, yeah, I certainly don't rule that out.
Gotcha.
Not
Now,
okay, but yeah, I can see where that would be the case.
gotcha. Now, you also mentioned a scenario situation where you were counseling a couple and she gave the other spouse or her spouse an allowance. Have you seen it where couples kind of potentially end up in your office or in a negative situation because one party is like, no, I make all the money, right? You make 50,000, I make 200,000. Yeah, collectively we make 250 and we're living this 250 lifestyle, but I make the bulk of it. So
Yeah.
you give me yours and then I'll give you what I feel like you need. Have you seen that be positive and work, or how can couples kind of unravel those types of scenarios?
Yeah, not positive. Where that becomes more of that control issue. Part of the conversation that I have with couples is that it's no longer my money or your money. Once we're married, part of that I do is our money. And so regardless if you bring in $1 or $1,000,000, it is now our money. And so back to that board of directors, we still are sitting together as board of directors, regardless of who is bringing in the money. It's still together as board of directors making this decision, as husband and wife are making this decision as partners. And so it's a we and not a mine or yours, regardless of who brings it in. Once it comes into this house, it's our money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once we do with it our money, we talked about the chores. It may be that here's your discretionary funds. But again, we're deciding that as a couple that, yes, here's your discretionary funds. You can go get your nails, you can go play golf, you can do whatever you want with this discretionary funds, because we've already sorted out the budget of here's what the mortgage is and here's what tuition, and here we've already sorted all those things out, and now here's your discretionary funds as well.
Gotcha.
But it's not okay to say because I make this much, I get to make all of the decisions. Even if you're taking the lead and making those decisions, it still needs to be a we decision and not a you decision.
Gotcha. I like that discretionary funds, right? Everybody kind of has that discretionary funds that you can kind of use and do
Right.
whatever it is that you
Yeah.
like or want to do.
Yep. And even if that's setting up separate accounts, that's one of the questions that couples often ask: is it okay for us to have separate accounts?
That was my next question.
And I'm not mad with that, as long as there's transparency there.
Gotcha.
Where like if you have the same accounts, you can have the same name account. You have access to those accounts. You know what's in each of those accounts. But here's my checking account. So my discretionary funds go here. Here's your checking account. Your discretionary funds go there. And so if you want to get me a gift or whatever, you can do that. And I don't have to micromanage that. And so I can see where that's helpful. But it's not, I have this whole money over here that you're not aware of. And so it's back to that whole secrecy aspect of it. When I'm keeping things from you, that's when we run into problems.
Gotcha.
So I make this money and I'm going to have my secret stash over here that you're not aware of. Yeah, that's not okay.
That sounds like an elixir for problems, and it sounds like that's one of those steps that's kind of leading people potentially to divorce court, which you're trying to help them stay out of. Got it. So with my last question, and it's kind of hanging still on this separate account conversation, because I know a lot of couples. My wife and I know a lot of couples and people where they have separate accounts that aren't just discretionary funds. It's I pay the mortgage, I pay the utilities and the groceries, and then, I keep whatever else. And then whatever else you have, you do whatever you do with that. And then if we need to kind of do something together, then we'll have a conversation and kind of open up the books a little bit to say, hey, well, I can put money towards that. Do you find that scenario kind of works or has worked with couples? Or is that kind of something that kind of leads them down the line of being in a challenging situation?
Yeah, I would say that leads down the line of being in a challenging situation, because at least as you described it, it sounds more like roommates than husband and wife. And so roommates, like in college or whatever, you're sharing a room. All right, I'm going to cover this and you help me with that. All right, you cover that and I'll help you with that. That's not a partnership. That's roommates who is sharing funds for living arrangements, where husband and wife is this is again our money. So it's not, I'm going to do this. And I may have my separate account. And again, if I'm taking the lead on that, that's fine. But that's still a level of transparency that we're deciding that your check is going toward the mortgage. Okay, fine, whatever. But it's still a we decision that has decided that, and not, I have my money over here, you have your money over here. I'm going to do what I do. And then whatever I have extra is fine. If you have run out of money, then that's your problem because you just ran out of money. It's like, no, whatever it is, we're deciding together as a couple. Getting back to that, this is our money and not mine or yours.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, Dr. Corey, this conversation has been enlightful for myself. I hope for our audience as well. I picked up many things that I will start to use and encourage my wife and I to use in our marriage when it comes to finances. You know, we do an okay job of meeting, but I like the conversation in the terms of putting a board together around the money. You got a chair and a vice chair, et cetera. That's one of the things that I definitely have picked up in this. And then we have our own accounts where, you know, you use it. Well, I won't even say accounts. We will give ourselves money to do discretionary things, but I like what you said of having that discretionary fund. So those are just some minor tips that I picked up along the way. And I want to give you appreciation for sharing the insight with us today. And before we let you go, quick question. Does your practice have the capacity to bring on clients? Because I'm sure people
It
who
does.
might see this might say, you know what, I might want to sit down and talk to somebody. So do you have the capacity to bring on new clients at this point?
Yep, I am still accepting new clients, and so meet in person in Swanee or online. And so whatever is convenient for you, happy to see you.
Gotcha. So with that being said, guys, we'll make sure Dr. Corey's information, contact, website, et cetera, is below, as well as links in the show notes. And if you guys got any questions, feel free to reach out to him. So as you can see, this is just another episode of us at Love 2.0, providing you with education and equipping you with the resources that you need to take your love and relationship to the next level. That's Love 2.0. I'm your host, Michael Oden, and we'll see you guys on the next time. Talk to you soon.